So we are 6 lines on the second paragraph, the lower paragraph, of Beis. And the immediate point is about Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe was a kvat peh. That Moshe was drawn from water. Water represents the igulim. As we explained that in water, all the creatures in the water are completely bottled to the source in which they were created, which gives them a presence. As we explained that, and the Abosha also there is constant feed from the source, but there is a gap. There is a source and there is an entity, and then there is a transmission. In the Yam, there is no gap at all. It's a constant containment. Therefore, this is total beetle. In total beetle, there is no personal representation of the creature. And that's why Moshe had this speech impediment, because the Dibur is in from Yeshus. Because clearly that was the Dibur is. Dibur is when you were expressing externally that which you were thinking internally. In other words, that which you're thinking internally does not flow automatically. You have to create it. That's the union from Yeshus. Ve'alkein, okay, the end of that line. The line begins with B'chinas Bitul B'tachlis. Ve'alkein hoya kvat peh. And that is why Moshe was a kvat peh. So this is one reason explaining why Moshe was kvat peh. Because of the total beetle. The gam, and then also the yois de beigulim hem kelim ktanim. Being that in igulim there is the principle that the kelim ktanim, small receptacles.
Kvat peh is speech impediment, right?
What? Kvat peh means this, yeah. Kelim ktanim, small receptacles, we'll discuss it briefly. Ve'enam yechoilim lahochil as ha'oir. And these small receptacles are not capable of containing the oil that is present there. Ve'alkein hoya kvat peh, and thus this resulted in the fact that he was a kvat peh. Lefi she'ein hadibu yochel lahochil as ha'oir. His speech was not capable of containing the oil that was flowing from his nefesh. The principle, again, the similar union, Kelim Ktanim, is really a direct a reflection of the union of beetle. Because the whole union of Kelim is receptacles to receive the oil in one's own environment, in one's own mitzias. But there is beetle, then the kelim automatically are small. It means that when there's beetle, the focus is on the oil exclusively, not on the kelim. And this is why there is kelim ktanim, and therefore there's no means to receive the oil in a keli. because the focus is entirely on the oil. Sometimes we'll discuss it maybe later. Okay. Yeah. And although shehabitul hu milo, although that beetle in general is really a milo, is really a superior quality, due to the fact that only through beetle does one sense the higher the oil, and especially the higher oil. Nevertheless, this has an element of katnus. We'll discuss it after a few more lines. V'inyan hayoysher hu, and then there is a principle of yoysher. So this is a gulim, where the lower eagle is completely contained within the upper eagle. The yoysher process, however, is b'bchinas ilu v'olu, is in the form of ilu v'olu, cause and effect, which means sheha'olul hu b'mitzius b'fnei atzmei, even though the olul is the effect of the ilah, and therefore it recognizes the ilah, it recognizes where it's coming from and what it stands for. Nevertheless, it recognizes it as a separate entity. Sheha'olul hu b'mitzius b'fnei atzmei, but the olul is a separate presence. V'ho'yilah mislabeshes boy b'toichoi, and the ilah is mislabesh, is infused in the olul and gives it life, but he gives it life as a separate entity. V'im hayos, and all those who b'chinas mitzius dover, even though that means that it's a mitzius. Mitzius dover. Mitzius dover means that it does not relate fully to the sensitivity of the oil, to the reality of oil. It takes only things through a mitzius, through a definitive presence. The komokim still yesh bozeh b'chinas hisrachbus. There is nevertheless, on the other hand, so to speak, on the flip side, there's inyan from his rachbus, broadening out, shemekabel oir ha'il, where he receives the oir of the ilah, of the cause. So over here it's presented really in a very brief manner, but we'll try to, as I said, we don't skip anything, try to focus in a little bit in the principle involved. The inyan of ilah ve'olu, the inyan of oir ve'keli. Oir, as we spoke many times, oir does not exist without a moir. Like we say, oir hashemesh. Oir is representative of something which is of a primary reality. And then that sheds oil, that gives chayus, so to speak, all around itself. So we'll take the analogy of a home, of a house. So we spoke many times that a home, as the Gemara says, Odom shein lebayis ein yodom. A home is not just four walls. A home is the presence of the human being, the human presence. This is what makes the home. And from that perspective, when you enter the home, what you see is really the oyer, the human being. But then, this home, as we said, gets furnished, and it gets decorated, and becomes an attraction all of its own, which is really intended to reflect the quality of this human being. But in this process, you can kind of lose focus and say, you're not talking about you're talking about the beauty of this piece of furniture or of this curtain. This is where the keli becomes counterproductive. But if the keli is appropriately, this was at Ilav Olu, if the keli is appropriately related to its cause, then the keli reveals more and more of the richness of the human being. If you enter a home that is poorly furnished, it's also a home. And there you see that this is a human being, but it doesn't reflect, doesn't reveal what the human being stands for. Because there isn't the kelim through which to reveal it. And this is the pshat I say, that when there is beetle means that you're completely focused on the reality itself, on the oil itself. There is kelim, but the kelim maktanim, it means that the kelim is de-emphasized. The point is not the kelim, the point is the oil and the etzem, where it's coming from. So this is what the other says. So that's a mile, because then you focus on the etzem. But hareze b'bchinas katnus. B'chinas katnus means that you can recognize what is katnus. Katnus means, the word katnus means small-mindedness. You recognize the truth of the human being because you de-emphasize everything else. This is katnus. When you have kelim rechovim, you can emphasize all the inyanim that flow from the human being, and you don't lose a human being. On the contrary, you recognize that all this is representative of the richness that's contained in this person. That's what kelim rechovim. There is, as you said, then there is the risk that you may lose focus and become distracted by the kelim rather than the oil.
So the world is Hashem's home.
The world is Hashem's home.
In this Hashem.
And this is why there's all the infinite variety in the world, because it all represents the Hashem's greatness. So here we have both of them. There's a kelim ktanim, there's a beetle, and therefore there's the emphasis of the reality. But it's kelim ktanim. You do not really see the greatness that's contained in it. Kelim rechovim. Yes, you are more distant. You're in a separate entity. You're more distant from the source. But ultimately, the source is revealed in a greater richness, in a greater manner. This is the union from Yesher. As we said before, in Igulim, there is not a separation between the Ilum and the Olum, between the cause and the effect. There is not a transition where the effect receives it from the cause. It's all contained within itself. So let us focus on that for a moment. You have all kinds of creatures in the Yam. The Gemara says, "Kol ma sheyesh bayabosha yesh bayam." Everything that exists on the dry land, there's a counterpart in the Yam. So you would say, oh, these creatures represent all the richness that's contained in the Yam. They represent it internally to the Yam. They don't really represent it in terms of what the Yam is able to do, because it's all swallowed up internally. And therefore there is not that message, that statement, that Gilui. And if you take the Beria Shebiyam and take him out of the Yam, there is nothing left. You can't survive. It has a presence only when it is swallowed, when it is within the Yam. So therefore its reality has not been fully identified. It's not for real. Even though the Yam creates these creatures. It creates these creatures as long as it is within the Yam. This is called katnus. Like a child. A child can understand whatever you teach him. But he doesn't understand it on his own. He understands it because you are substantiating, you are saying right. I'm proud of you. He's saying right. But he is saying right because you substantiate that it's right. A Godel, he is saying right because he has absorbed what you taught him and he says right. So he says, so there is a mile in beetle, because beetle actually more directly represents the oil, but there is a katnus. Katnus means it does not represent the oil in a substantial manner, that this is a true oil. It's true only because it's connected to the source. The source has to constantly resubstantiate it. Even though really it's a true message. Kerim Rechovim, this is an Ilav Olu, where the Olu is a Mitzias unto itself. And if he receives it, it substantiates with his own Mitzias. Yes, I see that this is right. And that's the mile in Rim Shebeyabosh.
I just ask, I know we once learned about the world of Tikkun. This is all, I guess, within Tikkun, right? Gulim and Yosha both are in Tikkun. Because we said that Tikkun is the emphasis of Tikkun is Bittul. Even though Tikkun, I remember we once learned this.
This is what I pointed out here. There is in Ilav Olu, this is where you have to have a special care, special focus on Bika. Because the Olu becomes a full-fledged Mitzias. And you lose a sense at what this is all about.
That's the Yosha.
That's a Yesha. But, so, Tikkun brings this beetle, but it's beetle indicating, not beetle in the sense. One, I don't know if you know David Morris. You know David Morris? Anyway, his father he married. His father was a very wealthy man. He married a lady, and this lady was very finicky. He came into the house. They built a new home, all kinds of things. He came into the house and he walked over to a sink to wash his hands. So she screams, you're staining the sink. Staining the sink. This is a Tohudik quality.
There's a difference between bittul so that the kalim should receive the proper message versus bittul to see the truth in and of itself.
That's right, without a
regardless of
kalim. When you don't have a real sense of what it is, a real presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The koiches, the way they're cooling in the nefesh, this is igulim.
Igulim, I hear what you're saying. No. Here is where we're calling the nefesh. This is the way they are in the source. This is the yilo. This is the way it's in the source. Igulim means that there is a further development, a further descent. But at the descending level, it's like say the fish is bottled to yam, but the fish potentially is present in the yam before it's born. That's not Igulim. V'zei inyan ilmim upikhi. This is what the mother says, that there were bruim, that the palace was first populated by bruim ilmi, mute that could not express themselves, and then pikhim. Pikhim means those who are wise, who can express themselves and have. Pikhim means that they can really think for themselves. That's what pikeyach. The bruim shebiyam, because the bruim shebiyam bechinas igulim, there the development is in the igulim form. Nikroyim ilmim, they are called ilmim, mute. Al shem bechinas habitul, because of the bitul ukiinyan kvat peh. They are bottled to the extent that they had nothing to say. We say Hakel, Hagodel, Hagiber, Hameir. Hakel, Hagodel, there's only the Rebishter, forget about everything else. Right? Apikeach says no, Godel, Giber, Hameir. וזהו גם כן עניין המלוכים שנקנויים נוני ימה. The malachim are called nune yama, the fish of the sea, because they are bottled to their source all the time. And then there is brumish b'yabosh and nikroim pikhi. They are called pikhi. The word pikhi, as I said before, pikhi means smart, wise. Chocham is called a pikheach. Because this is rachmus, this opening up and recognizing what there is therein. This is as a result of moich. As a matter of fact, as it's known, as we explained elsewhere, as a matter of fact, in this Maimon we had this Indian very much alluded to, because we said what is the difference between Kesef and Chochmah. Kesef, this is the essential reality. Chochmah is where it's coiled, but there is everything there. Not one reality, but everything is contained therein. This is the Pikeach. And for Chochmah, you can draw all kinds of Yanim Bina, because Chochmah is the whole coil. It's based and it is receiving its oil from coil, but it translates it in the form that there is everything. There's a lot. There's all kinds of different things. Whereas in Kesher there is nothing. And this explains what it says in Kabbalah's Sforim. Inen hazivugim mashe lo nimtzo b'sifrei HaKabbalah mian zivugim b'bchinas yagulim. And Sifrei HaKabbalah, we don't find that they speak about zivugim principle at the yagulim level. Kiyim b'bchinas haYosher. Only in the Yosher, in the Yosher system, so to speak, not in the Yegulim system. Because the Zivugim means that there is the Mashpia and the Makabel. But in Yegulim, there isn't such a thing. Vaynal Fisher be Yegulim, Hare Atachto in Eine bim Husu Mitzias Dover. Because in Igulim, the Tachton, the lower, the recipient, does not have a presence. And he's not really capable of accepting the higher oil because he's not a Metzius. To fully understand this, we'll have to wait a few more lines. But essentially, Igulim constitutes a kind of a paradox. On the one hand, he is fully contained in its source. On the other hand, he himself doesn't have anything. He has everything because the source is there. He on his own doesn't have anything. Therefore, he's not able really to receive the hashpoah from the mashpia.
Not able to receive it. Not able to receive it as him himself.
Receiving means that he's receiving it as an entity. When you Kabbalah, this is a phenomenal in which I said we have to wait till tomorrow. That the Indian that he becomes a Metzius, as we say, Metzius means that he is a reality. Even though he is a Metzius and is far from the Oyer, but because of the essential quality of a Metzius, the essence, through self-refinement he can receive every Oyer. Because he is a reality. As we said before, that the etzem is unlimited.
Sorry, what enables him to receive every or?
Huh?
What enables him to receive every or?
The fact that he has an etzem presence. But therefore, surely it has to be to avoid and to beat him. But in this, the etzem is a recipient for everything. This we'll discuss in Mitzvah tomorrow. This is it for this morning. Call to
Dominical, joy, life, Kila, Stalo, it's